Beautiful. Hello, everybody. Thank you for joining us live today on the podcast. And today on the podcast, we are having a conversation about the science of sustainability using microbial technologies to boost soil health and food security. And today, I have a special guest with me in the studio. He is Dr. Michał Słota, all the way from Poland. And Dr. Micah is a phenomenal researcher and scientist with two doctorate degrees. So, guys, I'm just going to read out his, bio so you get to know him better before we start out the conversation. Dr. Michael Słota is a distinguished biotechnologist, researcher, and science communicator with a unique blend of expertise in plant genetics, biotechnology, environmental toxicology, and microbial technology. He holds two PhDs in medical biochemistry and another in plant biotechnology, demonstrating a strong interdisciplinary foundation that bridges agriculture, environmental health, and molecular science. Currently, Dr. Michael serves as the Director of Science Affairs at the Institute of Microbial Technologies in Poland and also heading the marketing of Nodal UAB in Lucerne, where he focuses on advancing sustainable science-based solution in agrobiotech and microbial application. He's also the CEO and co-founder of Content Farmer, a company dedicated to translating complex scientific knowledge into accessible narratives for agriculture and land and life science sector. With a research background that includes participation in 9 international research grants, over 11 peer-reviewed publications, multiple book chapters, and patent submission, Dr. Michael brings scientific depth to discussion on plant resilience, root system development, and environmental toxicity, particularly in involving heavy metals like lead and cadmium. His international experience includes research internship in the UK, in France, and in Poland, and editorial work in BioAgric World Digest in the US, giving him a global perspective on innovation in agro-food system. Dr. Michael is also passionate about the intersection of biotechnology, biodiversity, sustainable food systems, and believes that empowering youth and farmers with scientific knowledge is key to transforming agriculture. Dr. Michael, welcome today. Welcome, welcome. Thank you for being here in the studio with us today.
Thank you so much for the invitation. That's the great opportunity to join you today. That's a little bit too much about myself. I would say that I'm quite passionate about that crosstalk between the microbes, plant, and the soil, and I'm still trying to learn more.
Fantastic, fantastic. So as we delve into this conversation today, I would like you to just enlighten our audience a bit for a couple of persons that might not be so used to some technical terms. So what exactly are microbial technology and how do they work within the context of agriculture?
Yeah, that's a good starting point because we need to define some basis. I would try to not to overcomplicate the things because still I think that with microbial technologies, we are going back to the ancient times of our agriculture because the microbes were like working hand by hand with the farmers since quite a long of time. So generally, microbial technologies are the beneficial microorganisms that contain bacteria, fungi, algae, all kinds of that microbugs that live in the soil that has their functions, and the functions of all that microorganisms are crucial for both the structure of the soil, function of the soil as the interface between the plant and the nutrients. That's the way how the nutrients and the water resources need to reach the crop. So microbes are there and they serve a key purpose. They allow nitrogen assimilation in multiple pathways. They help to solubilize some of the nutrients like phosphorus, potassium, silicon. They release substances that control the growth of crops. also the ones that help them to protect from environmental stresses or biotic stresses, so help to control the pathogen pressure in the soil. So they are crucial. They are the foundation of the healthy crop growth. So in fact, all the farming practices starts with feeding the microbes to
Mm.
sustain a good growth and productivity of the crop.
Oh, wow, fantastic, fantastic. Thank you so much for sharing that with us. So, my next question to you at this time is, how do biofertilizers, biostimulants, sort of differs from the chemical fertilizers, and what are like the advantages to like farmers?
Yep, yeah. That's also important part to distinguish them because the mode of action of traditional conventional fertilizer, the chemical one, and biofertilizers are a little bit different. So
Okay.
generally, in years back, when the growth of human population was immersed, we needed to have some shortcuts in the agriculture sector. We needed to
Yeah.
stimulate the input of fertilizers to maintain the productivity, especially with population intensive areas. So there was a need to use the soil applied fertilizer. So
Yeah.
I do not try to put the situation that is only black and white.
Okay.
Still, as fertilizers, the traditional one, are needed in certain extent to fill the needs of plants, but they need to be put into the context of soil health that is primary. So generally, synthetic fertilizer are usually applied by the soil. There are, of course, the foliar applied fertilizer when we try to put the nutrients that could be depleted in
Mm.
given conditions. And on besides of that, we have biofertilizers that are usually formulas that contain microbes living in any other forms that are able to govern some of the functions that are related with nutrition, so providing the nutrients for the crop. That's
Okay.
the important distinguishment because biostimulants tend to have the effect on metabolism of a plant that cannot be directly related to providing nutrients. So they could be any other effects that improve plant resistant to stresses, improve the yielding potential, and
Okay.
generally the metabolic pathways that end up with good quality and high quantity of yield in other ways. So there are the biostimulants, and there are also some biocontrol agents that's end ups that portfolio of products that are oriented on the microbes. This contains uh, microbial origin active components or consortia of organisms that help to control some pathogen pressure. So there are two types. So we need to distinguish that the use of synthetic fertilizer is mostly limited on the soil application, like NPK
Okay.
fertilizer containing nitrogen, potassium, and phosphorus.
Okay.
And by biofertilizers, we help to give the microbes to affect the processes, and biostimulant help us usually to improve the stress resistance of crops on other mechanisms.
Wow, that's really good. Really, really good. Really, really good. So, do you mind sharing a bit on how microbes like helps to improve soil health and also sort of contributes long term to like land productivity?
Yeah, it closely relates to your earlier question because like soil applied fertilizer has their limits. They need to be applied annually according to the need of crop. The idea of using microbial oriented formulas is a little bit different. It's building a natural soil properties that would fit the plant. So the mode of action, the mechanism, how the microbial work could be split up into the one related to allowing a better intake of
Okay.
nutrients. So similarly, like supporting the nutrient input by fertilizer. So usually that could lead off or cutting off some of the fertilizer needs. So we wouldn't be able like totally replace them, like depending
Okay.
on the growth scheme, but we could try to integrate them to the usual practices. So that was the one. So So provision of nutrients is quite important. Also, microbial formulas affect availability of water resources.
Mm.
So by using microbes, we are affecting structure of the soil. We are affecting a granulation of the soil that is like crucial for buffering the nutrients inside, for keeping carbon stored safely in the soil. It is important for balancing the pH, balancing the salinity. So all physical chemical parameters of the soil. So we have balance on that, quite important. Then we also have like stability of the soil, so its resistance against erosion. That's quite important case for African continent because
Yes.
like climate stress, prone to erosion, over fertilized or overuse soils with aridity problems
Yeah.
need quite a lot of the inputs, like use of fungi that produce the glomalin, that's natural compound that is kind of glue that brings together the particles is quite important. Generally, the beneficial fungi are amazing helpers for the soil because they form a network below the ground that helps to attain the water resources, also
Yeah.
helps like in the gram of soil we have few kilometers, we could have few kilometers of fungi that acts as the highways also for the microbes, so other
Yeah.
bacteria could move along the hyphae of fungi to
Yeah.
translocate to the rhizosphere. So that's also amazing. And then that's one part with the nutrients, physical chemical properties, access to the water and soil structure. But also we have we could talk about improvement of chemistry of the soil, so degradation of the biomass, so the composition of the leftovers. So plant
Yeah.
litter from earlier season is quite important because still we are releasing the nutrients that could sum up to the pool that would be available for the crops. Also
Yes.
degradation of some harmful chemicals. It has been
Mm.
scientifically proved that some of the microorganisms could help with degrading some of pesticides left over, some of organic pollutants. So because
Oh,
they
wow.
were designed by the evolution to live in the properties in high salinity, it could be suboptimal pH, and they are able
Yeah.
to do. And the communication between the bacteria, fungi, and a plant allows them to adapt to the condition. They are the faster adapters than the crop itself. So they could survive in harsh conditions and help plant with, for example, uh, allowing them the better nutrient flows, allowing them to fight against the pathogens. That's the last part I wanted to cover. So that stress resilience mechanism that has different role, different
Mm.
modes. Bacteria and fungi affect the release of substances that naturally helps plant to grow, to control the development processes, and the induced systemic resistance in the crop and help the crop to protect against the pathogen pressure. That, for example, in many cases in the hot climates, it's very fast. So we cannot
Yes.
prepare sometimes to be reactive. But we
True.
could be proactive. We could prepare the
Yes.
microbes to help the crops, and then more be sure that the crop would be able to react and go through the acclimatization to that harsh conditions.
Wow, that's really, really, really good. Speaking of crops, right? What types of crops, sort of benefits the most from microbial application, particularly in like low resource or dry prone areas?
Yeah, yeah. In fact, there are different categories of crops that are differently affected. Generally, the yield gain, like on average, with microbial based formulas, the valid one with the right composition, etc., could lead to almost like 20-30% of growth on yield making practice. For like African trials, there were quite a lot of successful applications on some legume species like common beans, cowpea, or soybean, but also on maize, potato, or okra. So there
Mm,
was quite a lot of the research on that crops. But generally, uh, legume crops, some cereals, but also vegetable crops are very prone to benefit from microbial inoculation, especially like going to some African examples, the
yeah.
soils that are prone to phosphorus depletion. So East
Mm,
Africa, and mostly like 70% of soils has the deficit of phosphorus.
true.
So there is quite a lot of successful application of phosphate solubilizing bacteria that would help with that. And there was some successful application on cassava, on sweet potato,
Nice.
proving that the release of phosphorus could be improved by the natural modification of the native microbiome by the composition of the microbials that could be used and adapted to the local farm conditions.
Oh, wow, that's good. And interestingly, most of those crops you mentioned are common crops that are really grown down here in Africa, particularly in Nigeria. We grow a lot of legumes, we grow a lot of cowpea, we grow a lot of cassava. We grow a lot of that because it's like cassava is like one of our most common staple food here, regardless of the part of Nigeria. Because Nigeria can be categorized into like four main parts. There's like the southern part of Nigeria, the eastern part, the western part, and the northern part. But across the country, it's like a common staple food that we consume a lot, and so we do grow that a lot here in Nigeria. Okay,
So
so
they go quite good along with the beneficial bacteria. So that would be interesting to get involved. There are some lighthouse projects that already
okay.
prove that the applicability to that sub-Saharan areas are quite successful. So that would need more research and more like educational application of this, and how to couple this together with the practices that are already used there would be crucial.
Mm, mm. But one of the things that although farmers sort of complain a lot about in terms of like cassava, based off of local knowledge, they would term it as, oh, cassava is like what is like a crop that depletes the soil nutrients. And so when they plant this season cassava in a particular portion of land, the next planting season they then replicate to plant like legumes to sort of help replenish the nutrient that has been sort of depleted by just growing cassava in that spot of land. So yeah, there's
Yeah,
a bit of
that
like
works. Also, like similar, what is also quite popular in Africa, have the intercropping between bean and maize. That is quite
yes.
useful to replenish the nutrients. But it was also there was a research that proved that allowing microbes to get into that play, it could even help in improving like 30 to 40 percentage of like nitrogen availability of the beans are able as the legumes to fix some nitrogen, but also it is important to like keep the resource in the soil to get it for that after crops, the subsequent crop. So there is also like a critical thing how to merge the practices that are already there. In some cases,
Mm,
by you and my example, favor the microbes naturally. By the intercropping, we are favoring the native microbial population that already are there. So it is like good synergy how to use the external input with allowing some inoculation to help when the soil is degraded and have a very harsh start. So to allow the easier path to then get the microbes do the job and then get the rest of the practices like having enough of biomatter. So the organic carbon is crucial. So we need to
mm,
have the biomatter to feed the microbes. So that's crucial. Like integrate that two parts.
So my question now is, are there scientific ways to sort of test the soil to maybe know the level of microbes in the soil or the kinds of microbial activities happening. I'm not certain if that's like a practice here, but I just want to find out, is there a way to sort of test that so that that can, you know.
That's a crucial question. So, and that's the my actual one of my focus points. I have been working on the area since a while. And there are like different methods that we could describe, and we could assess the diversity of the microbes in the soil. So we could do microscopic analysis that are they want to accomplish, but they do not generate any numeric data. Then we have like enzymatic protocols that we could use to check the activity of the microbes by giving them different carbon sources.
Okay.
We could distinguish different group of microbes and test how they react and how active are the key enzymes
Okay.
produced by bacteria to assess what is the native like status of the bacteria if they are awakened because
Yeah.
we have like the population the native microbiome. It has been
Mm,
shown like even on the desert sand there are the leftovers of the microbes that are natural for some oases. So
yes.
the microbial life is potent to really go to with all that ecological succession and sustain the life. Of course, they wouldn't be able to flourish without the water availability, without the carbon inputs with the biomatter. So that's also crucial here. So depending on that, we have the last group, also the metagenomics analysis that we do the sequencing and analyze particular sequencing in the genome. That's not a cheap method, but it's scaling up if some world regions. So
Okay.
all of these like combined together could allow to analyze the point zero. So I'm now involved in the project that we conduct in Lithuania that we test like 80 different crops that would be repeating year by year
Mm-hmm.
in the growth phase of experimentation, of course with the natural rotation that are needed, but in the same sampling size we would be testing the microbial parameters, so the diversity, the activities of the microbe, the count of the bacteria, as well as the availability of the nutrients, because that's the two crucial things, like to
Yes. Very important.
adjust the
Yes.
inputs and not overuse like fertilizer. We need to know what's the total amount of particular nutrients and what is the available amount of total nutrients and how this evolved in time. So my
Mm,
current project is related to have like a very scientifically valid but demonstration experiment that would be available 24 hours per 7. So it would be streamed also to show what would be the challenges, what would be the
okay.
data, what would be the soil activity. So I would share with you afterwards
Oh,
some information about that project because I am thinking about like scaling up if that project would be successful, will prove the
yeah.
efficiency of the microbes in regulating the availability of the nutrients for crops. We could scale them up to different
Yeah.
continents. I already have the ideas for the Latin market, also with like subtropical climates with like a little bit different crops, but the next stage could be done in Africa. It's also like adapting that practices to the local needs would be crucial. So that would
Yeah.
also be possible slot to try to move that knowledge extent together.
Please, definitely, it will be definitely glad to collaborate with you on that. And I think that the work, that particular project or work, it's very vital because here most times for farmers, the most common fertilizer that is being used here is something called NPK, like nitrogen, phosphorus, and potassium, right? And so just having to know what exact ratio that is required also helps in not necessarily over usage of the fertilizers. Because sometimes maybe what is in the soil might be, you might not necessarily need much of, let's say, the phosphorus, but you need more of potassium and more of calcium. So you then know what to apply as against just putting NPK 15, 15, 15. What? Because that's like too much. So
Yeah,
definitely
that's
that
so key.
research work. Yeah,
Yeah,
it's definitely.
because like without the knowledge on the soil, without a proper testing, we are like blindfolded and trying to make a good practice. Because like in general, when we check the statistics, like for example, wheat on average needs about 35 kilograms on pure nitrogen per hectare. Like average value for Africa is like 18 kilograms of nitrogen.
Yeah,
But in some
yeah,
cases, we could just be losing, we could be like effective in providing that nutrient for the plant, but we need to
yeah,
be sure that the condition in the soil would favor the fertilizer uptake efficiency. And that's what the microbes do. We have been proved
mm,
that like theoretically there are the bacteria that could fix like 35 kilograms of nitrogen per hectare. So basically what the plants need, but we need to aggregate them like properly in the
yeah,
agricultural practices to
yeah,
like with limited resources like with the NPK that are quite expensive, mostly imported. Like
yeah,
nitrogen production is very energy,
yeah.
like high energy consumption product. A lot of the
Yes,
like
yes,
phosphorus need to be transferred from the world areas where it is come from the soil. So there are some economical pressures that affect the nutrients availabilities. And microbes we are like distributed, so
mm-hmm.
with governing them, giving that helping help from the microbes could at least allow us to reduce some of the inputs. We will still need like
Yeah,
to test it properly, to check the availabilities and give them if there would be a crucial need. But with the microbes in play, we could at least get that kind of resilience that we will have the population that could like gradually release the nutrients. It has been shown that some of the inoculation, the effects of the inoculation could prolong of single inoculation for 3 to 5 years. That's not what happens with the like synthetic nitrogen. But synthetic nitrogen is like fueling the tank of the car with broken pipe. We would be losing
yeah,
part of them because nitrogen is leaching. We will still the tank would be full, but we will need to pay the extra money to fill that because losing part of them. And with
yeah,
microbes, it's like having a multiple connections. So some of this wouldn't fully at least, but if we could reduce that synthetic input, put the right microbes, add also good agronomic practices, all that summed up will allow a better efficiency. So that would be the gain in here. We could cut down some of the resources that be still effective in providing the good nutrition program for the crops.
that's really good, really good. Just knowing fully well that it's going to also aid efficiency of resource usage. That's really, really good. But everything that has like and everything that has like a pro, there's also some cons to it, right? So are there any limitations or risks, associated with microbial technologies that farmers should be aware about?
Yeah, definitely. First thing is that there are a little bit of different inputs. With the synthetic inputs, we do not need to be very careful because there are like not different formulas of like urea or the basic form of
Yeah,
nitrogen used for the agriculture. So whatever source we could buy, we could source the product. We could be sure it would work the same. For microbials is a little bit different because we need to put attention on the microbial consortia that are used there, the compatibility uh, of the composition, but also compatibility with what other resources we use on the field. Also, the way how we produce the microbial strains are different.
Okay.
So that affects shelf life of the product. Also, it affects the batch to batch repeatability. There was a huge hype on the microbial products couple of years ago in Europe when the energy crisis started. So the prices of producing urea significantly increased, and a lot of farmer interest without a proper understanding how the product works caused like the use of the product on the same way they were using urea, but that's different kind of product. We need to also integrate a proper training, understand what is a proper application together with some of like farming principles that we know. Some of them that are used in Africa, including rotation, intercropping, using the compost of manure treatments, are a very
Yes.
good match for the microbial technologies. If we like
Mm.
in Europe, the manure application in some of the areas not popular anymore. So if we, for example, apply the products for the soil that wouldn't be that could be hostile for the nutrients for the microbes, we could lose some of their efficiency. So the crucial thing, what I would say, what would distinguish the synthetic inputs of the microbials is the education, is the demonstration plot for the farmers to see. They are not like very complex science behind, but there are some good working practices that we need to teach. We need to allow spreading the information month to
Yes.
month from farmer to farmer to let to not to believe but see the science outcome and how that work on the day-to-day life. So I would say that's the crucial thing, because the product has their limitation like connected with understanding how they could be used. Like it was that's not the case for the African continents. But for example, the application like in moderate climates in Europe during the freezing time, it also could affect the process how the bacteria invade or go into the connection with the crops. The same like for very dry period, we also need to figure out carefully how to apply them properly, how to integrate with the practices, maybe sometimes use different tillage methods. So and also the application via together with the other sprays or other practices is crucial. That would be that important part to take into consideration.
Mm. Okay. So that's a lot of emphasis placed on helping them get to acquire this knowledge by demonstrations, and so they actually see the impact and then sort of adopt those things. Fantastic. Really, really, really good. Really good. Okay. So from your own experience, why would you say it's sort of important for farmers to sort of move away from chemical-based agriculture to more bio-based solutions?
I would say that, of course, there are a lot of like sustainability stories that we would, of course, like to reduce our environmental footprints, but we still live in like economical conditions that could not favor some of the world areas. I would say
Yeah,
that limitation of the like limitation of the use of chemical fertilizer, at least cutting down some of the resources of that is useful for that resilience. That
mm,
we could at least guarantee some of the crop protection without the need to continue that external input. Because if we overuse, for example, nitrogen for years, that contribute to, of course, environmental pollution, but it also could end up with the leaching,
true.
with soil acidification, and also by reduced biological activity in the soil. So by giving an easy access to nitrogen to the crops, we are sending the signal that bacteria that help with the availability of the nitrogen are not needed anymore. So we are like selecting the native microbiome. So it is all about the balance between that traditional inputs and the microbials. And I think that in the long-term goal for that bio-based solution, we are investing in soil fertility. That is not a short-term effect. We are like building natural resources that would be available in the soils for the longer term. The basic statistics shows that the application of soil health oriented practices is more prone to happen when we have the succession in the farming families. So if the
Mm.
farmers want his son to overtake his farming activities in some future, he cares more about the soil health because like investing with microbial solutions is building that potential year by year by just allocating more organic matter, building that resilience because we could count that in the coming years and coming decades, the climatic stresses would still be prone. So we need
Yeah,
to build our like soil health insurance for that because there would be better and worse season
true.
probably the amount money like for every farmer over the globes is changing. The like return of investment for farming is also important, and the amount money needed to sustain the crops. We have some of the cash crops that has the bigger margin when selling this, and we have for example cereals that the amount available to conduct the fertilizing plan is limited. We need to calculate the numbers. We need to split our like budget for some soil applied fertilizer, but also like integrating some of the biofertilizer on inocula that would allow us to allocate this budget properly to make it working in the long term as a like profitable way. So allowing that to earn for themselves.
Mm. Really, really good. Really, really good. So, do you think that microbial solutions can help in terms of like rehabilitating the degraded lands and supports climate resilient agriculture? And
Yes,
if
that's
yes,
that's
how?
yeah, that's basically what they are intended to do so, like building that long-term resilience. So they, of course, they directly improve the organic matter content and
Sure.
enhance the soil structure by, for example, that glomalin production. So they help, like in the long term, for the soil stability, but also help with what I mentioned before, with degrading some of the pollutants that are very very hard to replenish in the soil in the farming practices. So all in all, like we go in direction of that bio-oriented solution. We are investing of natural land capacity to help with some of the problems that would occur with the limited nutrients, with limited water, or even with the scarcity of water throughout the season, like with the mycorrhizal fungi, with some of the inoculats. By building the structure, we prepare the soil to react, to adapt, acclimate to the changing conditions. So we cannot count that that would change the trend in most of the world areas are not favorable. There are some areas on the north part of world that could favor from like increasing temperatures, but the extremes in most part of the world, it is like projected until 2050 that decrease on yield could be up to between 10 to 40 percentage for some of the crops. So
Mm.
most of them would be badly affected. And what we could do to not to reverse the change because it's not really possible, but to put that insurance is like investing for the soil health by both like some of the inputs that we could change to more sustainable,
Yeah.
but also like adapting the practices that would favor, like for example, allocation of the organic matter or selection of the crops that on that area would go better, or even
Okay.
adapting some of the more sustainable strategies there.
Oh, wow, that's really, really, really good. Um, I will also I'll ask this. I'll ask it this way. From your own experience, what would you say are like the misconceptions that people have, particularly smallholder farmers, often about biotechnology in agriculture. And how do you think that misconceptions can be changed?
Yeah, I would say that the basic misconception would be like the biotechnology is the big word. So most of the farmers from rural areas, when they hear the biotechnology entering their fields, they see the pictures of the lab, of people like working on some microbes to change the normal way how they were farming since the decades. But that's not the way. In fact,
Okay.
biotechnology is one of the oldest industry areas. So the biotechnology is the beer production. Biotechnology is all kind of fermented foods, fermented drinks. So that's the use of the microbes or bio ingredients. So
Yeah.
biotechnology as per se is quite a old one. It's not a novelty. We cannot like tell biotechnology is the use of like GMOs, so genetically modified organisms. It could use so. There are some synthetic communities of bacteria, but we are not talking about that part. We are talking about selecting natural bacterial consortia to work
Mm.
functionally together, uh, together with the native microbiome that already governs its function in the soil. So
Oh,
that's
yeah.
crucial to understand that we are working hand by the microbes that are in the soil, and the big data shows that we select the inocula properly, we are not only working on that mode of action of that new bacteria that we want to introduce, they are helping the one that already live there to control their functions. So I think that the critical thing here is again education, starting from the youth to demonstrate also how the practices work, like on the demo funds, also the field
Yeah.
schools to help dispel all that myths or showcase the benefits that we are not trying to reinvent the wheel, we are still
Mm.
working on the same principles. In fact,
Yeah.
most of the agricultural practices that are effective, that are sustainable, they favor microorganisms to feed the crop. So it's as simply as that. And sometimes we could just get a little bit of help here by the inoculation because we could do it. We could turn into like regenerative agriculture approach, but this needs time,
Yeah.
especially when the synthetic fertilizer were used over time, use of other plant control ingredients was quite intensive. We need quite a lot of time to reverse some of the changes. So that's the shortcut that we could use the microbial communities to help that transition for the less dependence of that external inputs.
Mm. Great. That's great. Really, really great. Um, do you at any point foresee an alignment in terms of like microbial technology with indigenous knowledge and traditional farm practices?
Yes, of course. That's the part I mentioned. Like the indigenous knowledge was always concerned about the soil health because soil is our natural resource. We need to invest in that to make it flourish. So all kind of practices that are were long term used in multiple world areas, including composting, intercropping, crop rotation, mulching, like leaving the mulch on the soil to just block the evaporation, uh, minimized tillage has been used to integrate into agriculture practice. And they not only flourish the crop itself, but they could allow a better survival rate, the better the higher diversity of the microbes. Also, it could naturally, for example, for the crop rotation, selection of the some local varieties, it could help the crop to adapt to specific edaphic conditions of the soil conditions and climate conditions. So I think that the practices like doing the effective intercropping, like the example we talked earlier, like bean maize intercropping, that if we use additional inoculation in that system, we could even increase the benefits. So we will leave more nitrogen resources for the subsequent crop. So there is, of course, a huge synergy for the practices that are already there. We just need to educate, demonstrate, and just work on that good working practices to scale up into the areas that they work. Test for different crops, test the compliance with the local conditions, and then based on that examples, just move steadily to increasing like more bio inputs in the farming practices.
Beautiful, beautiful. But speaking of example, can you sort of share with us a real world like success story of where microbial technology significantly transformed agricultural outcome in a community or even in your region?
Yeah, that's a good question because I think that working on that real life examples are crucial because we could theorize, we could like have that discourse between the science done on the small scale and we have like the field application that are most interesting for the farmers. So in fact, we
Yeah.
had in the period of 2020 to 2023, we had a trial in Nigeria and Zimbabwe with microbial products that we tested side by side the use of traditional NPK 16, 16, 16 in the amount of 400
Okay.
kilograms per hectare on wheat, and we reduced that input by adding the microbials. And we have proved that we could increase the yield. Like with that season, that was not easy. There was not a lot of rain there, and we have been successful with increasing up to 30 percentage of yield by reduced NPK rate compared to the full NPK. That was one example. We also had a pretty interesting trial in Zimbabwe, also on the wheat, and we have been able to increase the yield up to 10 percentage, but reducing the use of NPKs. That the savings for the farmers were around $200 per hectare because we cut down
Mhm.
almost most of the NPK input and we still got 10% benefits. So it's possible to attain a good efficiency on not easy African climate, but we tested we tested this side by side. So I would say that fertilizer use efficiency is crucial to compound,
Mm.
integrate the use, of course, understand the soil. So what you have mentioned, like soil testing, is also crucial. But we also
Yeah.
have some good working practices we could scale up to different areas. So that is one of the projects. I also know that recently there has been finished pretty a good outcome project in rural part of India, integrated some of new bio input practices to more than 4,000 farmers, and they were like amazed by the role or how the use of some natural based strategies, sustainable strategies, they could affect the crop, but also their revenue from the field, because that's also crucial. We need to work on that farming practice, but keeping the farm product profitable for the farmer, to allow them to still, because that's crucial, that's all the system. So reduce part of the inputs, use the sustainable one, and give also the possibility to get that positive yielding potential and also benefits
Yeah.
on the profitability of the farm.
That's really good. Really, really good. So if you could give one um, piece of advice, I think, okay, before I take that question, I think I'll take this other question, which is uh, there are still certain people that would hear this conversation today about, microbial technology and how it would help, with soil health and food security and everything, but it's still sort of sitting on the fence. still believe like, okay, that, because it's like microbial activity, it might sort of like, it's like a slow reaction in terms of like the application to the soil compared to like fertilizers that they're already used to, which is pretty much for them, they consider it as very fast. Like, okay, it springs into action quickly. And so they are at that point where they are still not open minded to wanting to explore biotechnology or microbial technology. What would be your admonition to such a person?
Yeah. I would say that they need to see it to believe it. So I think that investing in both like the demonstration, so research and development and education that need to be trustable for them would help to promote the adoption of the practices. But it needs to be done like side by side with the policy makers. Like I think also the pressure from the different sides of the to the authorities to show them that it could be a way for Africa to provide like a high quality crop produce. Like we could
Yeah.
limit the input. Still, the pressure like of geopolitics is tense, but like trying to prioritize the subsidies for at least the part that we give the bio inputs way
Mm-hmm.
because we could prove there is a plenty of scientific evidence that the use of microbial inocula, the application of regenerative practices could turn into a better quality crop. We could increase the protein content, we could increase the mineral and vitamin content. So we are ending up with higher value crops. That's crucial, and for the continents like Africa, that 65% of labor force are connected with the agriculture sector, and the agriculture sector generates more than one third of gross domestic product. So it's crucial, like having a quality product and having that know-how is
True.
crucial for like providing that huge surplus for the production for the export volume. But it all need to start one field at the time. So I think that demonstration, like trying to start small scale, doing the demonstration of the product, it's not like magic, it's just the science that we need to understand, we need to adapt to the conditions. So that would be that advice. So let's find out how it works, if that would work in that particular field. There is a big chance that the neighbor farmer would see the outcome, and that's how it spreads. So we need to have like this kind of domino effect. So see the positive outcome, see how the product, talk about the research that has been done, the one that we mentioned a while ago, but also try to them to understand the product, that they are available, that the knowledge is available for the one. So I think that that let's learn about it together. Let's try it on the field basis, and that would be the best approach. Maybe that from that side would also affect the policymakers to see that's the good of good change that is needed to turn that agriculture profitable and it more sustainable and also have the more healthier food produce.
Beautiful, beautiful. Speaking of policymakers, if you could give one advice to agro innovators and policymakers looking to scale sustainable farming, what would that be?
I would say they need to focus on different farming models because the same modes, the entry levels differs between smallholder farmers and big cooperatives. That's crucial, like to understand because like adaptation of some of the products is of course easier for the big farm. They could do a side try, understand how it works. So I think that policy makers shouldn't neglect the smallholders still in the in particular world regions like some of the Latin countries, Africa, the sub-Saharan Africa, uh, a lot of Southeast Asia, India, is where the smallholder farmers are the major force. So we need to provide them with the proper education. We need to invest in the knowledge of youth, the youth agriculture professional that would have the access to a proper training would be the one who would be the decision makers for the farms for the future. So I think that it's of course like for the policymakers, it's easier to work with the big ones, the cooperatives of some industry scale production. But it should be the knowledge should be equally distributed. So there should be programs. That I know one example in Colombia that was funded by Colombian government that reach with the knowledge on good practices using the microbes to different farmers from the big size farmers that use the cattle breeding to the small size farmers, and it was all funded equally by the government to training these practices. And we also can use it as a role models like for the others, because different
Sure.
models would be applicable for different size of the farmers. So I would say like
Yeah.
do not neglect the smallholder farmers, because like if you sum up, they end up with significant number in the volume production in
Yeah.
Africa.
Sure. Sure. And this is like the final question to you. Uh, Tell us more a bit about the work that you're doing with Content Farmer, and why, because we're talking about knowledge, having insights and information as to things that are helpful, and that will also help with sustainable agriculture and just impacting food security. And I believe that the work that you're doing with Content Farmer is very vital with regards to that. So I just want you to sort of tell us a bit more of the work that you're doing with Content Farmer.
Thank you for mentioning it. Still is still a progress. We are focusing extensively at the moment. So our plan is to launch a platform for educational training for the
Okay.
farmers. That would be we will have the platform edufarmers.com, that we would like to bridge the knowledge from the scientific papers. That is not very easy sometimes to bridge it to the on the field application. So we
Yeah.
would like to be that filter, that bridge would tell like the practical side of that knowledge, how it is possible to test them on field. So we would like to allow that access via the on-demand trainings that would be available for the farmers without any like promoting any product, because it need to be like clean, pure education. So
Yeah.
we want also only like industrial players to contribute to that part. If they would like to train their sales staff, they would be the one to pay the bill. So that should be a resource that would be free of charge for the farmers to learn, to understand, to prepare the topics that would be relevant for the farmers, and attain not only like for the single online training, but put them into like pieces of knowledge bricks that could
Yeah.
end up with the process, how to understand the most sophisticated areas of plant nutrition, soil health aspects, some crop specific trainings. So idea is to try to provide that knowledge, to work hand by hand with the farmers, talk about their experience. So we'll have also a research repository database, not the scientific peer reviewed one, because that's not the point, but discuss the practices in some of the world areas that could have a relevancy to other world areas, exchange the ideas, because sometimes could lead us to prove on both sides, to learn together. So that's the idea. So I would be eager to share with you the updates when we would be ready to launch. So I think that I would be open to share for you and also the viewers of your channel, of your network, the access to test that and try the training and the feedback to together work on that educational resource.
Fantastic, fantastic. That would be really great to have access to that, because those are like up to date informations, and it will also help in terms of increasing farm productivity and also soil health for us down here in Africa. It's been an amazing time and section with you today, Dr. Michael. Thank you so much for your time. Thank you so much for sharing your your expertise with us. We are grateful and we are thankful. And thank you for, like I said, backstage before we came online, the work that you're doing. It's a very important work in terms of even the content. Because, like we talked about on the podcast, which is they are indigenous knowledge that worked, but at this point is no longer working. And so it would be good that people have access to new found research and informations that could create much more change, help us, grow crops better, help us practice sustainable agriculture and even climate resilient agriculture as well. And that's like a key part of the work that you've been doing over the years. And so thank you for that. And I also look forward to having access to the content that Pharma Content will be able to provide for people. So thank you very much.
Thank you so much. It was a real pleasure to have this chat together. I hope that was the first one, maybe not the last one. I will reach the audience in African district to try to like work together. I would be very much welcome for the feedback, for exchanging the ideas and trying to merge with that new scientific knowledge to try to cope with together with good agronomic practice that we use and have this scientific booster to just align to get the agriculture more productivity. So it was a real pleasure to talk to you and access your audience today.
Thank you. Thank you very much. It was delightful just having this interaction with you today.